Dr. Bolson.
Thank you. Thank you all. I mean, it was a lot of questions. As I think Mr. Robinson summed up well, we've answered many of the questions we need to answer. And he is accurate in the fact that we do not have 100% of the answers. And that's been throughout this entire process. And so, but we have a great team that's been finding answers even when the questions kept getting harder. I mean, one of the reasons which, we've run into some things is the guidance has changed. We've had to respond to new guidance, to new research. And so, the ability to anticipate all of this has been a big challenge. Mr. Hennigan, are you still on the line here? I wanted to ask if I might cede some of my superintendent report time to you. I see you. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I didn't warn Mr. Hennigan of this, but there's 3 really important topics, all of which I think fall under Mr. Hennigan's purview. So I wanted to give him a chance to report out on these 3 things as they relate to us. One is attendance taking, the other is immunizations, and the third is the fact that this is Suicide Prevention Month. So I wanted to, Mr. Hennigan, would you like to take a second to talk about those 3 topics? It was something I was planning to include in my report tonight, but I thought you might be a better person to do that.
Yes, sir. So with regards to attendance, as everybody knows, we have developed an attendance app, and students are expected to check in daily through that attendance app to state that they are present. Due to the fact that our K-3 students do not all have devices, our K-3 students are all marked present every day. And if teachers do get information to the contrary from a parent, they do have the ability to go in and make that change. But one of the more most updated pieces is for parents to know that starting today, absence phone calls are going out. So we wanted to make sure that we worked through this process for a couple of weeks before we started that. But if parents get a phone call, as they would have in past years, to say that their student was absent, that means that student did not check in through the attendance app. So again, we do have teachers rectifying that data. So for instance, if a student didn't check in, but the teacher saw the student in class, they may go in and change that absent to present. But so that parents are aware, if they get a phone call, that does mean that your child did not officially check in through the attendance app. The second piece is regarding immunizations. So students are all required to have their immunizations up to date and be in compliance. We obviously are in a much different situation this year than we have been in the past because many of our students, or all of our students, are in this virtual environment. So in past years, if students were not in compliance with their immunizations, then they would be excluded from school after the 20 days from the start of the school year, and would not be permitted to return until they had their immunizations in compliance. Given the fact that we're in this virtual environment, I'd like to just point out that we have 2 sets of students now. We have students who are coming into the buildings and students who are 100% virtual. So our students that are 100% virtual on September 29th, which would be the day after the 20th day, then we are not going to exclude those students, meaning we're not going to tell a student who's home that they can't get into their virtual classes. But starting September 29th, any student who'd be coming into a learning center and then moving forward in the weeks to come, students who'd be coming in for the hybrid or for those other programs that Dr. Bolson outlined tonight would not be permitted to come into our school buildings until they were within compliance. So at the end of the day, it's really important that parents are getting their children their immunizations. It's really a public health issue, but it's always been the responsibility of the schools to make sure that we have an accountability measure for that. So it's really important that we are getting our children immunized, but then as far as the school system is concerned, it's important for our parents to understand that starting on September 29th, students will not be permitted in our buildings if those immunizations are not up to date. And letters will be coming out starting tomorrow from our school nurses to let parents know if their child is out of compliance. So the third piece, and thank you for giving me a moment to recognize this, Dr. Bolson, is that September is Suicide Prevention Month and Awareness Month. And this is such an important topic. This is not something that is easy to discuss. It is something that we have been affected by in Harford County Public Schools. And it's really a topic that really deserves and requires a lot of awareness. We are increasing our efforts within the school system to do trainings, to work with students, to work with staff, to recognize the signs of students who are considering suicide, and to really across the board reduce the stigma associated with mental health and mental wellness. Really just wanted to have this moment to recognize that, to urge everybody to speak with your children, speak with our students, to not avoid the conversations regarding mental health, and to let the community know that we really are increasing our efforts to provide training with our staff and with our students around this topic. And with that, I think I see a hand from Phoebe. Did you want to say something, Phoebe, or ask a question? Okay, maybe that was a mistake. So Dr. Bolson, thank you for the time on those three topics.
Thank you, Mr. Hennigan. And now as a segue from the last topic, we also reached out to our Teacher of the Year, Beth White, who is an advocate for mental health and suicide awareness. And she actually shared a quote that I wanted to read. Unfortunately, suicide is something that I have lost too many students to over my 13-year career in teaching. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 10% of young adults say they've experienced suicidal thoughts in the past year, and the suicide rate among teens continues to rise. I would like to encourage members of our community to reach out to their loved ones and to those in our care to check in on them. Purple is the color that signifies suicide awareness and prevention. Wear it and show it to serve as a reminder that we need to talk about mental health and break down the stigmas associated with it. So Ms. White, thank you for sharing that with us for tonight's report. And just three other quick things. Congratulations to Mia Siergay of Falston High School. She won the National Security Language Initiative for Youth Scholarship from the NSA. She'll be studying Arabic this fall through the U.S. Department of State's virtual program. I'd also like to congratulate Grace Colwood in the IB program at Edgewood High School, along with those students who are part of her organization, We Can Serve. I'm not sure exactly how she pronounces it, but it's all run together as one word, for being recognized by Hormel Foods for their efforts to ensure those in need continue to receive food throughout this pandemic. And for students, this Friday is actually an early dismissal day, whether you are in one of our learning centers or you're virtual. It is a training day for our staff, so please remember this is a early dismissal day this Friday. So with that, I conclude my remarks this evening. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Our next meeting will be October 12th at 6:30 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.